Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of NoDQ&A video right here on NoDQ.com. Thanks as always for watching. Got a lot of questions here, so let's get right down to it. Aaron, I made this form spring just to ask you this question, so please answer in video. I personally think The Rock versus Randy Orton would be a better match than Rock versus Cena. Do you think we'll ever see a Rock versus Orton match? I definitely see it as a possibility once the John Cena versus Rock feud is complete. Now, I suspect we'll see a Rock versus Cena rematch, perhaps at SummerSlam, so therefore, it would be a good opportunity to do Rock versus Randy Orton maybe at WrestleMania 29, third generation star versus third generation star, so that would be a great match right there. I don't know if it would have quite as much heat as a Rock versus Cena match, but I think technically it would probably be a better match, but yeah, I think we'll definitely see it at some point, especially if Rock's going to be sticking around for a match here and there. I think it's only a matter of time before we see Rock versus Randy Orton. Do you think Dolph Ziggler versus Mick Foley will happen at WrestleMania? And if so, do you see it being under Extreme Rules? They still have about 4 or 5 weeks now before WrestleMania, so they could always end up adding that match to the card, but perhaps WrestleMania is already stacked enough as it is, and maybe they're going to wait until another time to do Dolph Ziggler versus Mick Foley. I would really like to see the match happen. I think it would be great for Dolph Ziggler to get the rub off of Foley and let them do a hardcore match. I think back to Backlash 2004 and how much the match with Mick Foley and Randy Orton helped Orton's career. So, yeah, I would definitely like to see it, and I think it will happen at some point, but at WrestleMania, I just don't know because they already have the card stacked, and I don't know if they're going to add another match this late in the game. They've already pretty much shaped up the WrestleMania card, and yeah, I don't know. Will Vince Russo join WWE again? I sincerely hope not, and I do not think it's going to happen. When for some of you that don't know, Russo actually briefly came back to WWE in 2002, right around the time that TNA first started. And he quit like within a week because he wanted to be the head writer, and instead they had him as part of a creative team, and Russo didn't want to be part of a team. He wanted to be the guy writing the shows. So that's the only way I could see him even considering a return to WWE, is if they gave him full power, and they're not going to do that. That is not going to happen. So yeah, I don't think Russo will be back in WWE anytime soon, if at ever. WrestleMania has always had a bigger buy rate than other pay-per-views, but what if it had a low buy rate compared to Mania's past? Besides blaming The Miz, how would WWE react? Would they change any future plans for Rock or any older wrestlers? If the WrestleMania buy rate was disappointing, I'm sure that they would come up with every single excuse in the book. The last thing they would do was blame The Rock and say that The Rock's not the draw that they thought he was. They could blame The Miz or whoever's on the card. You know, Triple H isn't going to get the blame. Undertaker's not going to get the blame. Cena's not going to get the blame. So probably Chris Jericho and CM Punk would get the blame. You know, I don't know if they would change their plans. I mean, the idea is when you bring back a legend for a big match, it's going to draw in people, and historically it has. When Hogan came back in small doses, like for WrestleMania with The Rock, and when Hogan came back for the SummerSlams against Shawn Michaels and Randy Orton, those shows always did big pay-per-view buy rates. It's when you have the guy that he sticks around for too long and people lose interest. And with The Rock, he might just be a nostalgia act at this point, and if so, it's best to use him in small doses. So even if WrestleMania doesn't do a huge buy rate, I still see Rock coming back from time to time, and I think WrestleMania is going to do big. So unless WWE somehow the people in WWE completely lose their mind and they totally botch the booking and the build-up for WrestleMania, I think it could possibly be their biggest buy rate ever, and I suspect it'll do over 1 million buys, but you never know. How come Sting never joined with WWE back in 2001? What was it that he was so scared of? I think Sting had a bad feeling that if he went to WWE, they wouldn't utilize him properly, that he would just end up being, instead of a special attraction, just being another guy. And I think after the Alliance storyline went down and after Scott Steiner came in and Goldberg came in. I think Sting, maybe he wasn't sure of himself, but once he saw how those guys were handled, I don't think he was so upset, and I don't think he was second guessing himself. I think Sting felt he made the right decision, and if he had gone to WWE, then perhaps he would have ended up jobbing to Undertaker's wife. You never know. So hopefully at some point Sting will at least get in the Hall of Fame, because he accomplished so much, and he deserves to be in it. And if there's any guy that hasn't been in WWE that should be in the Hall of Fame, it's Sting. So hopefully he gets in there at some point, but I don't know if he's going to wrestle again, but who knows. Never say never. Hey Aaron, do you think it would be best if only faces won the Royal Rumble while the heels win Money in the Bank? I think in the case of the Royal Rumble, it doesn't really matter all that much. I think that logic would tell you that if the babyface is going to win the Royal Rumble, it should be an earlier entrant, because he has to actually work for the victory. He has to go through all the guys. And if a heel's going to win, he should be a later entry, because he's not having to do very much. And he gets the cheap win in a way. But, of course, there's always exceptions to the rule, like Ric Flair at the 1992 Royal Rumble when he was entrant number 3. So I guess it really just depends on the guy and what his storyline is and what his character is. So, like I said, it doesn't really matter all that much. As far as Money in the Bank goes, I do agree with you, because the very nature of the Money in the Bank is that the winner cashes it in on a guy who's not really prepared for a match, and that's just very heelish right there. So that's just my opinion on it. With burial of the younger talent, quote, end of an era, and quote, nobody left like us, what does that do to the younger talent? I see a long-term payoff, WrestleMania 29, but that kills guys for 13 months of TV. I definitely don't understand what the point was of Triple H saying that we're the last of our kind and nobody left it in the ring like us. And I don't think that's good for the young talent to say something like that. Why couldn't Triple H have just said that we're the last of the Attitude Era or the Monday Night War era or something like that? So, and as far as like doing a storyline around that, I don't think that's a good idea. That comes off like the Millionaires Club versus New Blood storyline from WCW, and I just don't think that's a good idea. And historically it hasn't worked, so I don't think they should do it. Do you feel Shawn Michaels should be added as the special referee to Undertaker and Triple H? Or do you think it'll be a bit of overkill and overshadow the likes of Rock versus Cena and even Punk versus Jericho? Personally, I would love to see him be the referee. I suspect that Shawn Michaels is going to be involved one way or another. I suspect he'll be at WrestleMania. He's scheduled to be on Raw this Monday night again, so clearly he's part of the storyline here. And originally the plan was for him to be the special referee last year, and then that didn't happen, and then this year it was talked about again until the Hell in a Cell was announced. So I don't know if he's going to be the referee at this point. He might just be like an outside enforcer, or he might just do a run-in, but I do think he'll play some kind of role. What are your expectations for the Rock versus Cena match? It can't possibly live up to the hype. WWE likes tension and anticipation, so I expect a lot of stare downs and looking at the crowd. Is it possible that WWE overextended itself hyping this thing? I think it's really important that they have a finish that is going to keep people interested in the product and wanting to see what happens next. A lot of eyeballs are going to be tuning in to WrestleMania, and usually after WrestleMania there's a slump in interest. People tune out, and WrestleMania kind of goes back to, or WWE kind of goes back to that cooled off period, and where there's not a whole lot going on. So I'm really hoping that they do something big in this match. So when it's over, you're like, I really want to see what happens next with Rock versus Cena. So does that mean a Cena heel turn? I don't know. That's why I'm really curious to see what they do, because they need to do something big, in my opinion, for it to live up to the expectations and all the hype. So we'll see. That'll do it for today's edition of No DQ&A Video. Thanks as always for watching, like I mentioned before. Make sure you subscribe, youtube.com/NoDQCAW, and tell a friend on Facebook or Twitter, wherever you go, and we'll see you next time.